And especially when you're under stress like that, there's a good chance that you're going to rationalize whatever you think is going to be best for you at the time. In other words, values is a way that you live your life regardless of the outcomes. So now, I guess the question becomes, because you said there'd have to be like strong beliefs. So I wonder how many of us have values then. I mean real values. Like, for example, you have to raise your hand, but I wonder how many of you have actually sat and thought about what's important to me and why. And I don't mean to think about the things that are important to you. Like, you might think, my family's important to me. Yeah, but why? Well, because they're there for me. So it's a selfish thing? Oh no, because I would suggest that there's something deeper going on there. It isn't just because they're there for you. There's more to it than just that. If I were to ask you, like, should you steal? No, why not? What's wrong with that? Well, you're stealing. Yeah, but what's wrong with stealing? Why is that so bad? And why is it that we hold property crimes? Because someone steals a car or whatever. Why is it that we'll say, well, it's only a car? Is it really only a car though, man? Like, how long does it take you to save up enough money to buy the car? How much time do you spend working every month to pay for that car? The car itself, the insurance, everything else. It's a lot of money. And your money translates into time. If you bought a car for $1,000, let's say, and you're earning $10 an hour, that's a lot of hours that you're having to spend to buy that car. It's not just a car, it's your time. And if it's your time, then that means that it's your life. And so you can start to understand why perhaps people will appreciate their property so much. And it's fashionable to be like, oh, you shouldn't be so attached to stuff, or stuff doesn't matter. Stuff does matter. Because if stuff didn't matter, we wouldn't work so hard for it. But also it's because of what the stuff represents. It represents your life, your time, your energy. And it represents your work ethic, of course, because you work hard and you see it. There's a car, I was driving yesterday, there was a car behind me, it was a Maserati, I was in the freeway. I just saw it in my rearview mirror, so I started to slow down, like look, just because it's a cool looking car, man. And I think like, my God, and I looked it up, and that car was $200,000. I thought, wow, dude, that's a lot of money, dude. That's like half the price of a house, just on wheels right there. And so for that person, the car represents something else. And so I asked that question because these things you'll find start to get really fluid. Like, respecting women, this is a value, but if I ask the question, like, why? And if you understand why, I mean, at the real deep level, it's almost depressing. Like, for example, why is it that we should respect women more than we respect men? Is that a weird thing, respect women? Why not men? Why not kids? Why not everybody? Why specifically that group? And we'll kind of shrug our shoulders and go, well, I don't know. But here's the reason for it. Because guys, you're disposable. That sucks. Men are disposable in a society. Why is it that men do all the dangerous work, men do all the heavy stuff? Because you're disposable, because you don't make the children. And if for society to perpetuate, you need to have children. And this isn't just like a 2025 thing, this is historically hundreds of thousands of years. Who goes out and does the hunting? Why? Is it because we're best equipped for it? Yes, true. But even in a situation where a woman would be equipped for it, there's still this reticence to doing that. Because guys are disposable. We have been for a long, long time. And then that means that we therefore have to prove ourselves in other ways. In other words, there's almost no guy who's valuable just because you exist, as much as we say it, in quite the same way. And so there's a question there, what's a society's values then, if it places an emphasis on one group over another? And the reason for these values I'm talking about is so that, how do I say, it's a shortcut to thinking when you find yourself under stress. In this class, right, we talked about the trolley cars last semester. Yeah, and that question is, would you pull the lever and kill the one, or would you let the 5 die? And we start rationalizing it out. Well, it's a numbers thing, 5 versus 1. And why would you think about those things? Because when you find yourself in a situation in life when you're going to have to make that choice, you're going to have to make that call. And it's better to think about it and have a value structure in place that you've been living by, so that when this shit hits the fan, you don't have to decide like on the spot when you're highly emotional, what would you do? I can make it more real for you. Almost everybody in here is probably going to have to make the following decision at some point in your life. Do you keep your loved one on life support or not? Someone you know has had a heart attack, is in a coma, had a massive injury. What do? Do you keep them on life support? Do you try to get them treatment? Or do you say, nah, it's time to go? And the time that's going to happen, I was driving yesterday, again on the freeway, and there was a little bit of chaos on the road. You could tell that an accident just happened because you're like weaving around like debris. And I saw a paramedic on the side of the freeway. This is off the 94. And as I approached it, there was a guy, obviously had been a motorcycle rider. He's in his leather jacket, everything, helmet, and he's on the side of the road just done. And medics were around him, like rushing to get him aid. So, and as you drove through, you saw what happened. His bike was just destroyed, it was like obliterated. Him and a truck had a disagreement, I guess, and the truck wins. And the driver of the truck is like standing there, he's like pacing, you can kind of see him. But the guy who was on the bike, he's just, flattened out. Do you think that guy got on his motorcycle that day and said, today is a good day to die, and jumped on it? Do you think that guy is sitting in the hospital and they're asking him, so what kind of treatment should we give you? Probably not. It's probably family members or friends, whoever's on his emergency contact list, who is now going to have to make a decision that they didn't wake up on Sunday thinking that they're going to have to make. And so you start to think about these things ahead of time so that you know what your guiding principles are. Because when you're under duress, when you're in stress, those things get really fuzzy. In a kind of a silly way, I don't know if any of you guys, when you go into a room, anybody in here, that person who looks around and finds the exits immediately, just in case? Or you're planning out what you'd have to do if there was an emergency, just in case? If not, it might be worthwhile thinking about, because somebody has to make those decisions. And if we're all sitting around and no one's able to make that decision, no decision gets made. Or worse yet, a terrible decision gets made because we didn't think about it and we're making an emotional decision at the time. Values are like that. Values are like that. If you're walking down the street and you find a wallet, is stealing okay? If you find that wallet, you pick it up, keep it. Well, it's not stealing because I didn't take it from them. Yeah, but it's not yours. If it has an ID in it or something like that, would you return it? If you can sit here today and go, yes, I would return that wallet, then hopefully that will be the exact same principle as if you're walking down the street one day and you just lost your job and your bank account's dwindling and you're struggling and all of a sudden you find a wallet. Don't ever pick up that wallet and say, wow, this must be a gift from God. Would God give you a stolen wallet? So now you gotta make that choice. Shit, the right thing to do is to return this wallet to the person. Or is the right thing to do just to keep it? And especially when you're under stress like that, there's a good chance that you're going to rationalize whatever you think is going to be best for you at the time. In other words, values is a way that you live your life regardless of the outcomes. Should you tell the truth? It's a good question. The answer is probably yes. Should you tell the truth? Yes, probably. There's this philosopher, Immanuel Kant. He wrote a book called, I should know this. It's on the tip of my tongue. I'll think of it. Oh, the Groundings from Metaphysics of Morals. It's a book about what's called deontology. Essentially, it's a type of approach to ethics, morals, that the right thing is the right thing no matter what. So one of his arguments is that you never have a right to lie. You must always tell the truth. Always, no matter what. And there's a long explanation for it. In short, it just accounts for the idea that if you lie to a person, you're using them as an object, not as a human being. If I needed to mark on this board, I'd grab this marker and I'd mark on the board. I'm using this marker for a purpose. If I have a nail and I get a hammer, I'm hammering this thing into the wooden plank. I'm using the hammer as a tool. In the same way, if you lie to a person, you're lying to them because you want to get something out of them. Not because they're a human being in and of themselves, not because they're special and unique and great as they are, but because you want to use them to get something that you want. So this guy writes him a letter and says, hey, Kant, that's a crazy idea. Because and he gives the following example. You're at home, you hear a knock on your door, you open it up. There's a guy standing there, he's bleeding from his stomach. And he's like, dude, help me. Someone's trying to stab me, someone's trying to kill me, please help me. Okay, so you bring him inside, help him out. A few minutes later, another knock on your door, you open it up, and there's a guy standing there with a knife. And he's like, hey, sorry to bug you tonight, but I was trying to stab this guy. I got him once or twice, but he's really quick. But I saw the trail of blood leading to your house. Have you seen him? Now, most people would think like, of course you say no. You say, I haven't seen him, and you lie to the person. But in that situation, Kant still says, no, you never have a right to lie to the person. If you follow his ethics, it makes sense. Because as soon as you say, yes, it's okay in that circumstance, then you can justify it in almost any circumstance whatsoever. Instead, if your value is just to tell the truth, then that's what you do. You tell the truth. You be honest. You be honest. And you should always tell the truth. Remember last semester, the AP pulled out 7 of you guys and asked you guys, does Scanlon ever cuss in class? And by the way, they have to give me a list of who you are if they brought you in. I didn't even look at the list. 7 out of 7 of you guys, 6 of you said, yes, Scanlon cusses. What should you have said? Yes, Scanlon cusses. It's on fucking video. It's all over the place. It's on YouTube. Don't deny it. I don't need anybody's protection. 1 of you said, no, never heard him cuss before, not even once. I appreciate you, but don't do that. Tell the truth. Tell the truth. And if you just feel like, I don't want to snitch, I don't want to be part of it, then just tell people, I'm not going to answer your questions. I don't want to be involved in it. But don't lie. Tell the truth. Tell the truth. Don't let anybody compromise you for that. Because once you can justify it in one sense, again, I appreciate it, but I don't need anybody's help. I don't need protection. I can handle it myself. If you can justify it in that one case, you can start to justify it in all kinds of cases. And then at that point, it's just like almost how you feel. And I wonder if any of you have done this before where you've lied. You didn't mean to. Like somebody asked you a question and you just like blurted out an answer and you're like, why did I say that? That's not true. Then you're kind of like, oh well, I lied. Well now it becomes like a reflex to do that. So this is all a way of saying that values are the things that you have, that you hold to, so that no matter what the situation, it just doesn't matter. You do the right thing. If stealing is wrong, then yeah, it's wrong to keep that wallet. If lying is wrong, it's wrong all the time. Doesn't mean you have to be a jerk about telling the truth, but you should tell the truth. Respecting people, work ethic, if these things are good and true in and of themselves, then we follow them. And so what he's getting at here is that once you have a feeling of hatred, all of that goes out the window. You gotta respect all women. And we stand there, except for that one bitch because you hate her so much. Yeah. Because she stole or whatever. Like stealing is never okay. I would never steal, except for that one guy. He deserves it. Yeah. So check yourself. Be careful of the hatred, because the hatred doesn't. Ultimately, it does harm you. It doesn't seem like it does. I know it's one of the things I hate saying because it sounds like something that people just say but don't really mean. But ultimately, it does catch up to you. Because if you steal, you start to think everybody steals. It's hard for you to trust people. If you don't respect people, then it comes through, and then they won't respect you, and then you won't respect them, and they won't respect you. And it's this big cycle that goes around. And so if you lie to people, you start to justify it in the sense that, well, everybody lies. But if everybody lies, then that means that they're lying to you, which means you can't trust them, which means you can't form any kind of a meaningful relationship with them. Interpersonal, romantic, even a business relationship, you can't trust them. So check your values. Questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques? Dope.